So I'm sure everyone is familiar with Liam Delap's skill set by now, and so I'm going to try to make this video a bit different to many others on YouTube that you may have seen, by first analysing the tactical reasoning behind Amorim wanting Liam Delap in his system in the first place, before looking at the alternative viewpoint for why I think United could have some tactical issues with Delap as a centre forward next season, before towards the end I give my overall conclusion of what I think of Liam Delap as a signing for United this summer. So let's get straight into it. What is the tactical reasoning behind signing Liam Delap? Well, it's pretty simple. Look at Victor Gyökeres. Gyökeres was integral for Amorim's Sporting side, so much so that they went from 4th with 74 points and 71 goals in 22-23 to the title the following season after his arrival in the summer, with 90 points and 96 goals. Now, the simplistic analysis may say it was just Gyökeres' goal scoring ability that was the main reason behind this significant improvement, and so therefore, because Liam Delap at this point in time anyway is a level or two below Gyökeres in the goal scoring department, Delap's arrival in Amorim's system is not going to have the same sort of effect as Gyökeres' did when he arrived at Sporting. Now, of course, you can't completely disregard the difference in goal scoring ability between Gyökeres in 23-24 and Liam Delap on current ability. However, the bigger impact is on the system as a whole, specifically how United look to progress the ball forward in the build-up phase in the defensive third into both the middle and final thirds. However, I do think Liam Delap could cause tactical issues that Amorim will need to solve. But before I do, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of different current season and retro jerseys, including this Manchester United 2006-2007 white away shirt with Ronaldo 7 on the back, which was actually my first football shirt as a kid. They've also got other retro jerseys from clubs around the world, as well as international sides as well. If you use code Atlantis at checkout, you'll get a 10% discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comments section below. So what tactical issues do I think Liam Delap will solve? Well, in the build-up phase, as I've said many times to the point of boredom, United struggle to play out of pressure, with the central centre-back moving to the edge of the box being one of the reasons why, alongside the lack of willingness to split the pressing lines with passes through the centre, which forces United out wide too early, making it easy for the opposition to then box our wing-backs in, and with their man-to-man press cut off the passing options. Add on to this the fact that with Højlund as the centre forward, any direct long passes from deep usually end up with the opposition regaining possession. See, at Sporting, Amorim was able to combat any high pressure that stifled Sporting's ability to play through the centre by using their secondary ball progression strategy of going direct into Gyökeres, and because he was so physically, athletically and aerially dominant alongside having a high level of technical ability, he was able to link play efficiently, connecting the defensive and middle thirds, either through laying the ball off with his chest, head or feet to on-running players behind, or running the channels and progressing the ball forward via his ball carrying and dribbling. Now, I wouldn't say that Liam Delap is at the level of Gyökeres in any of these areas, but he is very similar, to the point where from a stylistic point of view, if you did want a cheaper and younger version of Gyökeres, Liam Delap would probably be that player. Statistically, from his FB ref report in the Premier League this season, he doesn't look overly impressive aerially. However, from the eye test, I do think that Delap is substantially better than Højlund when it comes to winning those aerial battles against the centre-backs, often being used as somewhat of a target man for Ipswich this season. When he is receiving the ball to his feet or chest under pressure with his back to goal, whilst he can be very hit or miss when it comes to being able to link play, usually his first touch is pretty good, and it's often his pass which lets him down, mainly with his passes over longer distances, which is clearly reflected in his very low pass completion metrics. However, like Gyökeres, Delap specialises when it comes to running the channels, and being able to progress the ball with his powerful ball carrying and dribbling ability, which can be seen from the possession section of his FB ref report, and also the fact that statistically, when compared against every other centre forward in the league, he is by far the best progressor of play on his own when the ball is at his feet. And so the effect of replacing Højlund in the system with Delap is that whilst Delap isn't going to be as effective as Gyökeres when it comes to linking play with his back to goal, from these sorts of direct to long passes from deep, he certainly is going to be a lot better than Højlund, which alongside his ability to turn and carry the ball into the channel, or simply run into the channel and looking to receive a direct pass down the line, is going to work to make United less reliant on playing out of pressure with shorter passing sequences through the centre, where we have seen United struggle this season, specifically without that libero type of central centre-back, and instead is going to allow United to go direct a lot more often. However, whilst initially I do think this is going to be a massive bonus, I do think opposition sides pretty quickly are going to work out how to deal with this. See, Delap specialises in the middle third, in the physical battles or when running in behind into the channels, and so it really doesn't take a tactical genius to work out that rather than man-to-man pressing United aggressively in their defensive third high up the pitch, and leaving one of your centre-backs isolated against Delap on the halfway line, is a much better option to just simply refrain from pressing, dropping off to the edge of United's defensive third in order to negate Delap's ability to exploit this type of space. And this brings me on to the tactical issue which I see on the horizon. See, on paper initially when you look at the front three of Cunha, Delap and Garnacho, which if I had to put money on it I think will be the front three going into next season, it does look pretty good. Delap and Garnacho I think do have elite level potential, even if it will take them maybe 3 to 5 years or even longer to realise it, whilst Cunha is already one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. See, when it comes to creating artificial counter-attacks in the build-up phase, utilising direct passes into the forward line and channels, or through more traditional counter-attacks after a turnover in United's half, I think this front line is almost perfect from a stylistic point of view, just needing Delap's link play to be a bit more efficient, but with Matheus Cunha you've got one of the best ball carriers through the centre of the pitch from the middle to the final third, alongside two players in Garnacho and Delap, who I actually think when it comes to this isolated area of the game, running in behind into space either with or without the ball, both players are bordering on the elite level, because this is clearly the best parts of their game, and if you compare them to other Premier League players, I think they do this as well as anyone. However, the rest of their game is obviously levels below, and overall they're not even near the elite level at the moment. However, if the opposition do what teams like Fulham, Forest, Bournemouth and others in the Premier League have already worked out as the optimal game plan against top sides, which is just to drop off and refrain from pressing high, judging that leaving the centre-backs isolated in space on the halfway line as a greater risk than the potential reward of winning the ball back high up the pitch, now the space for Cunha and particularly Delap and Garnacho to run into is completely cut off. If you now compare this front three when United have possession in the middle third against a deep and compact defensive block, not only does it not look anywhere near as good in the build-up phase or on the counter-attack, but I now think you've got two players in Delap and Garnacho whose ability and output drop significantly. And it's pretty easy to see why, as at this point in their games, neither Delap or Garnacho have the close ball control or trickery with the ball at their feet to operate as effectively in congested areas, and I can see United struggling to break down the so-called lesser sides next season, particularly at home, because they are sitting deep and aren't affording Delap and Garnacho the space to take advantage of. And this is why I think people who say United shouldn't be targeting premium, already elite level targets like Gyökeres or Osimhen, and instead should only go for cheaper and younger targets like Delap, and just develop them into those players, are simply promoting a transfer strategy that next season will have us competing with Brighton and Bournemouth for 7th and 8th, rather than with Villa, Newcastle and Chelsea for 4th and 5th. The reason you would pay around £30 million and 60% more in wages to Gyökeres compared with Liam Delap, despite both being 4 years younger, is because Gyökeres' skill set is not only at a higher level, but also more complete. Yes, of course, Delap could probably offer a similar sort of ability to Gyökeres, maybe slightly less to be fair, when it comes to running the channels and progressing the ball forward with dribbles and carries, and maybe even when it comes to linking play from direct passes in the middle third from the build-up phase. But when it comes to what they offer in the final third alongside that, you can see why on current ability Delap is probably a top 6 or top 7 level centre forward, and Gyökeres is already elite. I think if you have the choice between Liam Delap and Victor Gyökeres, and you could beat Arsenal to his signature, then even though Gyökeres will cost £62 million, as opposed to Liam Delap at £30 million, and is also likely going to be on a salary of around £13 million compared to Delap's of around £8 million, United have to go with Gyökeres, because I think that's a sort of signing that is the difference between United getting Champions League football next season and not even getting in Europe at all. And so it's not just Gyökeres' goal scoring ability, which as you can see statistically from his non-penalty goals and his non-penalty XG rates over the last few seasons, is a level or two above what Delap would offer next season, but also his superior technical ability and ball control, which makes him far more effective at receiving incisive passes from in front of the opposition's defensive shape, and then linking play under pressure with his back to goal around the box, allowing United to progress the ball into chance-creating positions against deep defensive blocks a lot more frequently, something that I think would significantly improve Amorim's possession system's ability to break down and create against the sort of sides that we've struggled against this season. Now don't get me wrong, I do think Liam Delap will eventually develop this ability, as he does kind of remind me of a young Harry Kane. You can kind of see the raw outlines of a very complete centre forward, someone who can use his body well to hold off defenders when receiving passes into his feet, before then looking to shift the ball and find a long switch of play or release someone in behind with a through ball. However, at the moment, both from the eye test and statistically, Delap's execution is far from consistent, and people seem to just assume that he'll come into United and within 6 months we can get some random ex-legend to teach him, just like they said with Højlund, and he'll magically become elite, which really isn't how things work at all. Realistically, even though I do think eventually Delap will replace Kane in the England side and be one of the best forwards in the league, picking up around the range of 14 to 16 plus Premier League goals a season, I think that's probably maybe 3 or 4 seasons away, which is time United really don't have at the moment. I think if Delap comes in next season as United's only real centre forward option other than Xerxes, and Garnacho also remains, even with the signing of someone like Cunha, I can still see United having a lot of the same issues against deeper defensive shapes that we've had this season, and instead looking more impressive against the bigger teams due to the space they afford the front line when they press high. I could see Delap being a centre forward who performs well game to game, offers a lot to the side both in and out of possession, but goal scoring wise I actually wouldn't be surprised if he scored less Premier League goals at United next season than the 12 he has at Ipswich this season, which sounds implausible especially if United are at least a top 7 or top 8 side, but when you factor in the tactical context I think it makes sense. A lot of Delap's goals for Ipswich come when he's running into space from the middle third, due to Ipswich having less possession and often being pressed high from their build-up. And whilst of course he is still going to have these opportunities fairly frequently at United, more often than not, it's going to be against deeper defensive shapes where Delap's movement and instinct inside of the box is going to be of greater reliance than his pace, ball carrying ability and dribbling when it comes to getting into or scoring from goal scoring situations. So overall, despite the tactical concerns, I do rate Liam Delap very highly as one of the best young strikers in the world, and I do think he has the ability to be elite in the future. However, you can't ignore where his strengths and weaknesses lay, and what this would look like not just for United's system but also the players around him. And so in a future video I'll be exploring some other signings I would make alongside Delap that I think could turn him from a potential disappointing signing after United waste another season next year to someone who is looked back upon as one of the bargains of the summer before, as United finish top 4 and actually have a non-retarded season for a change. Also, if you want to pick up any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comments section below, and you can use code ATLANTIS at checkout for a discount for a limited time. But if you do want to sign up to my Patreon to read the articles or join the in-game Instagram group chat, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.